Hey guys, Th3 here and welcome back to more ranked 1v1. I'm once again operating as the Polish-Finnish motorized deck, and so far I'm really enjoying it. The plan today on Punch Bowl is to defend the right hand side, lay in a Fedor, send a couple of T-55 recon tanks towards this side of Boris, emphasize control over Boris, and then potentially push into Dmitry to try and get rid of the two-pointer that the enemy has. Now, Private Shark over here is not going to make that easy. There is, there's going to be a few infantry units on the field, and that might not really do it justice. Fortunately, I have a lot of fast motorized vehicles, unfortunately not heavily armored, as you might imagine. The Mi-17s are dashing forward trying to capture terrain first, but one thing I do not have a lot of in the front line is reconnaissance. I'm waiting for the XA-180 with the Aeroco there to drop off, so that's an oversight. Fortunately, the Mi-17s are capable of spotting stuff and are immediately wiping out transports left and right. And this is buying me time to get, well, in this case the Terramustis into a better position, and at the same time the infantry over to the other side. This is not the only side, however, where Shark is pushing. While I have a little bit of light Polish infantry on the right, as well as one Aeroco, I can already see that that is not going to hold. So instead, I decide to focus on my strongest side, which is the middle, and I have the infantry. There are a few infantry units that actually made it into the town. But look at this onslaught. Mechanized all over the place. There is at least 3 stacks of those, and I have very little fire support. So I know that that side's going to fall. Now, I offload the Yekeri way too late, and unfortunately the Brendryen are able to take out the transports. The other ones sort of made it into the building, but with that many Brendryen, I need to make sure that I'm only fighting those and not the other Mechanized, which are still rushing towards the town. So this is when the Terramustis are going to be useful. 95mm heat rounds are also very effective against infantry. Over here, the last of the Aeroco is making a stand, and unfortunately, as I call in a rocket pod plane to try and at least reduce the amount of units, the last of the Aerocos dies. I had called in more infantry, but considering the rate at which my infantry was dying there, and that was pretty decent rate infantry, the chances of me getting into that town early on are not great. So I'm not even going to bother. Now, on the other side, I offloaded the Aeroco, and I kind of forgot about them, so they are left out to dry. Unfortunately for them, because at the moment there's not that much that I can do for them. The good news is, I have some control over the middle, and especially with the Terramustis being able to suppress the Mechanized and more infantry in tandem with Terramustis on the other side, I'm hoping to control the battle here. And with that, potentially cut off reinforcements of the enemy, which are heading towards his two-pointer, towards Dmitry. Where, by the way, he has put a CV in, and that CV has been there for a while, so he is casually taking a couple of points. At this point, I have a couple of charioteers, which are currently the frontline unit. It's a motorized deck, you don't get very good tanks. I've since adjusted the deck, and I now have the T-55 Matty there as well. The charioteers, however, with 5 frontal armor and a pretty good rate of fire, I think 3 HE, they're great at providing suppressive fire against infantry units while other infantry units push up. Now, the Aeroco have died over there to the left, unsurprisingly, and my center sector is wide open, so time to get in some more units and close those gaps. The Mechanized there are still alive. The same could be said of my Yekeri, but there's only one guy left, and there goes the last one. There's already new infantry coming, however, so hopefully they'll be there quickly. The MiG-21MF rocket pod plane is coming in again, and at this point I spot more infantry, but also an M84A. That's not something you really want to see, especially considering that I don't really have any great ATGM infantry, and the Terramustis are fragile as hell, so I have to try and get rid of that tank as quickly as possible. Now, my motorized deck is pretty quick at reinforcing all over the place, and considering the amount of forces that are being pushed, well, basically everywhere, I have to try and get these forces everywhere quickly. I'm trying to make a bit of a comeback over there on the right before he's able to completely entrench that town. Towards the middle, I'm going to need more infantry. And towards the left, I still need more fire support, because while I have light infantry all the way on the left, there's not that much. Now at this point, I push the Yekiri forward. The charioteers immediately start wiping out the Mehanichovana, especially as they cross the road. And unfortunately, I didn't quite get the shot, but I do push back against Proletari. The Proletari quickly get a lot of fire from the charioteers as well. Now, time for some better infantry. Raniko Yekiri. These boys are very capable of dealing with any kind of infantry. Unfortunately, there's only 10 of them because they are pretty expensive. Now, one thing you're going to see me do pretty consistently throughout this match is float a lot of points. There are a lot of areas that I'm trying to pay attention to, and constantly buying units is not one of them at the moment. Over there is a bunch of Proletari. I can't quite shoot them. But I'm also interested in shooting the other OT M60Ps as they're coming in, because that is a bunch more infantry that I really do not need entering that town. You can already see another group of infantry, or potentially 2 of them, jump forward as they're trying to make good on another offensive there. Charioteers under fire from the Mi-35, which thankfully is not accurate. And at the moment, well, the charioteers are just going to have to wait, because I don't have an NTR unit there anymore. The Erico squad that died was the only NTR that I had available. At this point, it is becoming slowly but steadily more imperative to buy a CV, because Shark is consistently ticking that +2, and I need to get rid of that. But a CV is another 100 points that at the moment I don't really want to spend, because I could much better make use of those elsewhere. Like everywhere else. Still, if I don't buy the CV at some point, then the battle will be over, and I'm not going to even have to worry about buying more units. So, there's the CV, finally, and I split the KTs, each one going to one sector there, or at least that was the plan, and then dropping off to cover up all the up ramps that they have over there into my sector. In the meanwhile, the Yekiri have survived, so have the charioteers, surprise, surprise. And with these and the Mi-17s, I might be able to push back against all the infantry inside of that town. But there is more infantry on the way. There's another 70 OT 810s coming in, and unfortunately the M84A is still there. So this Terramusti dies, and the other one is having a rough time and also dies. At this point I still have Raniko, but there are essentially 70 infantry units coming in. So I'm going to have a bit of a problem there. I considered bringing over the XA-185 KTs to try and provide fire support and kill off the vehicles, but that M84A is over there, and that thing really needs to go. So instead I vector the Mi-17s over to here, because I think that here they're going to be more useful, considering the onslaught of, I think that's Salosnichi, so that's reservist infantry. And yeah, there they are. Some of the transports go down to the rocket pods from the Mi-17s, and the Mi-17s are going to prove instrumental over there. There's just so much stuff being thrown my way. It's constantly juggling to make good on any kind of defense that I could muster. Another unit's coming in, and with an HGM unit on the front line, I feel a little safer. One of the Mi-17s is empty, the second Mi-17 is also approaching empty, and there's a MiG-23 ML trying to counter these things. Normally, I think that's a bit of overkill, but considering the amount of damage that the Mi-17s were doing, I understand why he really wanted to get rid of them. XA-180s to the front line there. The KTs as well, considering that at the moment I don't really have any further use for them. The CV has been parked in the sector, and with that I'm at least no longer bleeding points. Over on the right, I'm resupplying the infantry as well as everything else, and trying to get more units over there to get more information, as well as prepare another assault, because I still want to get Braugh at that town. I think at this point of the battle, I'm getting a suspicion that I'm dealing with a mechanized deck. And a very well-equipped mechanized deck at that. Considering the amount of infantries that he's able to churn through and seemingly not care, it is pretty concerning that I don't really have a good handle on it, and there's probably a lot more coming. Now, More infantry being dropped off, more KTs being deployed, and these are going to be very handy to deal with as Loznici. Mi-35 over there, the Erico's trying to defeat it, but doesn't have the right amount of missiles left, and the Mi-35 just kind of hovers there. The Ito that I did have there was relocated towards Elena, and unfortunately is not able to get rid of the helicopter. But since the Mi-35 doesn't really have recon or any kind of optics, it's not able to drop its rocket pods on top of my vehicles. Oh, sorry, or infantry. Nevertheless, the Ranico, despite an excellent job that they did, are starting to really get pushed out of there. So once again, I'm going to have to fall back and make sure that I get a fresh batch of infantry there. And I do have the Yekeri, but I don't really want to use those as frontline units. Yes, they are line infantry. Officially, they can do it, but I would much rather have Ranico in order to deal with the larger amount of Mechanichovina, which are now getting pushed away by the Salamandra over there. I called on the Salamander to try and deal with the M84A that's hiding over there in one of those tree lines, but that Sava that's coming in is kind of dissuading me from doing so. So, moving forward with the recon. And I quickly decide against it, because there is another 3 tanks and another 3 transports coming my way. Lovely. Okay, here we go again, on the right. Let's bring forward some infantry, let's get even more fire support there, and let's see if the charioteers, which surprisingly all survived the Mi-35, are capable of getting rid of a whole bunch of infantry. Because he just seemingly keeps spamming and spamming and spamming. There is just such an incredible amount of infantry that my fire support tends to run out of ammunition. There we go. Mechanichovina, another 20 of them, so immediately the charioteers get to work. Now, time to get the KTs to move forward, because I thought maybe he has a whole bunch of stuff inside these towns, maybe not so much inside the tree line. I might be able to make use of that. And then once again, the Mi-35 rears its ugly head. And this time around, I'm ready. I have the Ito-90, and if it decides to come forward, it's going to get hit. XA-195 KTs dashing forward, the Ito-90 trying to get the kill on the Mi-35, and the charioteers doing what they can to try and get rid of all the infantry, while they're under attack from the Mi-35. Now at this point I am taking fire from something there, and that dies, although one of the KTs also died, and there's something else down there. Yep, it's another quad stack of OTs. They just keep coming. It's like I'm playing some sort of wave defense mod here. But no, this is actually ranked. Now, my Yikiri are in a bit of a rough spot. The Spado that I sent forward are also not doing stellar, and I only have 1 charioteer left. So I try and do the only thing that I can do, which is try and pull the Yikiri back, or basically make room for the Spado, as I need that building. And once again, there are more units coming in. There we go, Yikiri dead. That means that, in essence, they made room for the Spado, providing a bit more cover to the Spado. The KT is effectively empty. That's the Mi-8T KT. And time to pull that back. And let's get a bit of ATGM units over there. I'm mostly getting the ATGMs in order to get the Mi-17s. Because I'm relying upon the Mi-17s to deal with all of the vehicles as they're coming in. All of the vehicles of the infantry, they all need to go. The T-55s that were hiding in the middle are capable of getting rid of those OT-810s that we saw previous. And with that, potentially the infantry that they were carrying. They're also going to be instrumental in getting rid of quite a lot of reinforcements as they're pouring into that sector. Now, one thing that I'm still not doing right, and this is also something I'm going to cover in a different replay, I'm still not really playing the motorized deck to its strength, because I'm trying to grind. I'm trying to grind a motorized deck up against a mechanized deck. Now, I have a decent amount of infantry, but a mechanized deck, pretty much by definition, is going to have more. They're the experts at grinding you down with medium to decent infantry. And while I have infantry that is generally better trained, and infantry that might be faster with their transports, I don't have the fire support. So that means I'm not grinding, or I'm not playing this well enough. I should be making an opening in Dmitri, in his 2-pointer. Because over here I'm trying to fight effectively for scraps. I'm trying to get rid of his forces in Elena, or at least maintain my own presence there. Which arguably isn't the best use of my forces. If I was able to open a front in Dmitri, go for, let's say, smaller encounters, and provide fire support and quick mobility to get in there, then that might give me a lot more options and get rid of his 2-pointer, so I immediately start getting a lot more points. T-55s there are doing great work against the Zalosnichi, which were dropped off in the forest. The Scots, believe it or not, are able to provide quite a bit of suppressive fire against the transports and the infantry. And at the moment, at least in this sector, I have some infantry on the ground. But the reinforcements keep pouring in. I'm having the T-55Ms there snipe as many transports as they can, but good lord, there's a lot of them. So again, I'm calling in 2 more Scots with more Spado, trying to get more infantry into the town, and still trying to grind as much as I can. Which simply, again, isn't the right way to play. It's not what a motorized deck does best. Down here in the middle, we're still fighting. I still have an Mi-17 on standby, fortunately. And the other Mi-17 is getting rotated back to the base to try and resupply. More charioteers have arrived, and they are able to catch the Mechanized in the open. Very nice, because that is a beautifully fast way to get rid of them. I'm also calling in 2 more T-55s to deal with the transports as they come in. They're excellent spotters, they have great guns, just don't fire them on the move, because they don't do that very well. If there were M84As in that column, that he keeps pushing forward into Elena, then I would be in trouble. Fortunately, there aren't, so as it stands, I'm able to use those T-55s effectively. I've also captured the sector there in order to try and get points, but he was already capturing another sector, so we basically counter each other out there. And there is a Hera hiding behind my lines, so time to get an Ito 90 forward to try and deal with that, because I really don't need him spotting everything that I'm bringing in. And I'm lucky it's only a Hera. If that had been an actual attack helicopter, I would have been in trouble, because I have nothing defending the place. Almost all the points that I have are getting spent on just getting more stuff. Getting more units. Again, not the right way to play, but it's the way that I'm playing at the moment. Spado are making it into the town, but I'm grinding so much that immediately all the logistics vehicles are empty again. And because of that, the Spado that were inside the town initially don't really get a lot of fire support, or don't get a lot of reinforcements. The Erico, fortunately, are able to get rid of quite a few of the units. The Ito is able to get rid of the Hera over there. And unfortunately, I don't really have a great way of dealing with that triple stack of Mechanized in there. Because while I do have infantry, I don't really have the fire support for them at the moment. Now, MiG-912 comes in. And I'm not sure exactly what it was trying to hit. I think the Erico, and it does get the kill. I find the CV, and that's nice. Because if I can kill that, I can get at a +1. So, let's call in some mortars and start hammering that position. The Ito was able to deal with the units over there, so let's deploy a couple of base defenses, making sure that no further helicopters can come in. And just as I think I'm doing a little better down the middle, there's another 8 transports coming in. This guy just does not run out of infantry. Not at all. It just ton after ton after ton of infantry. This time around, I'm trying to push forward HGMs, leaving the building and just getting rid of the vehicles as quickly as they come in. Because the longer that they take to come in, the longer that I have for my fire support to deal with the infantry. At this point, I know where the CV is. The mortars have arrived and are able to start shelling it. And if they're capable of killing it, then that'd be great, and I might be able to get a few points for myself. There's an HGM unit over there, and it's starting to seriously harass my T-55 recon tanks. Unfortunately, I don't really have a way to spot it, other than the T-55 recons themselves, so it's time to pull those back. And there we go again. There are more transports. The transports fortunately get killed, mostly. The Mechanized are working over one of my HGM troops. The Spado are pushed forward again, but there is another quad stack of infantry coming in. At this point I finally have a +1 as his CV is on the move. Or dead, but I'm thinking he's moving it away. Note how many shells the T-55 recon tanks have left there. They're 21 for 64. They have expended almost all of their ammunition. Which I think for a reconnaissance tank is quite a feat, and not necessarily a great one. Because it means that they have been fighting almost non-stop. Now the M84A over there is going to get quite a few shots at the Spado, and I'm not really able to do much about it, because the XA185 PST Peugeot that I had over there, the HGM vehicle, is not quite able to do much. At this point, I'm also getting pushed on the other side. So while I'm making a comeback here, he is making a move on the other side, which is potentially even more deadly. Because that's my 2-pointer, and if he can get a CV in there, it's really going to start to hurt. I am able to get more forces into Elena, and I'm starting to make a move there. But there is a nice combination of infantry from his side, as well as fire support vehicles and tank. So I don't really have a quick way of getting rid of it. Waiting for an Mi-8T to spawn in. And then I reconsider and make it an HGM helo to get rid of the Igman, the T-55. Smokescreen coming up. Spado wiping out more vehicles. The infantry once again pops out. There goes another one of the vehicles, or at least that was the plan. And I have more KTs moving towards the front. The T-55s are trying to get repaired. And the other T-55 over there is already moving in. Unfortunately, I believe the 185s are coming under fire. There is something in that tree line there. And unfortunately, I don't have a quick way to answer it. So the vehicles die, leaving only a very, very low amount of the Yekiri alive. Now the Mi-17 is able to get rid of the Pram. That's nice, because that's a deadly anti-infantry unit. And on top of that, the HH-10 is arriving with the HGMs to get rid of that tank. But that move of his was really good. He kept pushing on all sorts of flanks. Which is basically what a motorized deck should do, not a mechanized deck. Although, with a mechanized deck, you can definitely get away with it. Mi-17 empty, and at this point my FOB is more than half depleted. That's how many supplies have been pumping into this, well, into this battle. Mostly rocket pods, I think. But also plenty of logistics vehicles moving back and forth, trying to get rid of, or trying to resupply and keep alive as much of my infantry as possible. I'm still determined to get into his sector there and get rid of the command unit. Because if I can do that, then I might be able to survive the battle for a little longer and increase my hull to a +2, potentially a +3, which would then quickly start to hurt him very badly. Unfortunately, the HH-10 dies. That's the HGM helo. So there's also anti-air there. And, well, my attention is split between the units over here on the right and the units all the way over on the far left. The fact that I'm able to bring a BMP-1 recon all the way over there is interesting. I didn't think that I'd be able to get into his lines that deep, but being able to do so tells me that there might be an opportunity to flank there. It's just that I'm constantly spending points, so I'm not really sure if I have the assets and the push that I can bring there in order to push back. T-55 Igman got a little too aggressive and met the Yekiri 90. Yekiri fired 4 RPGs but were unable to kill it. And the mortars are also starting to run a little low, so time to resupply those as well. The Scott 2s initially were under attack from mortars. And now that the smoke is in position, I might be able to get those guys to move forward again. Gotta be careful not to push them too close to that town, because if they can see me, I might be in trouble. The smoke screen that's coming up, by the way, is not my own. It's Shark who's doing that. So he's definitely plotting something here, and potentially blocking line of sight for my recon tanks, my T-55s. In order to make it more difficult for them to destroy all the units that are coming in. Now, time to get the Spado forward using his smokescreen, and meanwhile have the Scots move to flank. I haven't learned my lesson quite yet, because I send in another HGM helo, I decide against it and buy a Salamandra because it has both rocket pods and HGMs and optics. The Spado run headfirst into almost 40 Mechanichovana, and there is not that much that I can provide in support. Fortunately, either they haven't spotted the Scots or they're unable to shoot them for now. And I might be able to make use of that, because maybe I can have the Scots flank. There is a T-55 Igman coming in, and it is very quickly disposed of by, at this point, a triple stack of reconnaissance tanks. I was not really expecting to use triple stacks of reconnaissance tanks, but in this case it worked out quite nicely. Also, it's the only armor that, at that point, I had in this deck. The deck, by the way, if you want to see it, is linked down below in the description, or at least the current iteration of it, because I'm still experimenting with the units and figuring out what works best for myself. Now, I'm trying to find that Igman that's potentially hiding down there in the woods, if it's still there. So, sending forward a sissy team, and in the meanwhile, look at what the Scots have been able to pull off. They actually got quite a bit closer than I was expecting to get to the town. Unfortunately, they got so close that they get lit up, but they're able to escape unharmed. There's a couple of proletari there, so immediately T-55s get to work again. I'm still at a +1. But I'm nowhere near the amount of points that I need. Scots can make a move on the AA there, and I'm still looking for the command unit. More Yickety, so more KTs coming in. The Scots at this point have all sorts of fire control issues, fuel leaks, they have tracks or wheels missing. A Scot is a wheeled unit. Why does it say... Oh, there we go. Lost track or transactional or transaction, whatever. The the vehicle is not performing as well as it should. Let's put it at that. Mi-35 coming in. Well, shit. I don't have any anti-air there all the way on the left. The way that this guy just keeps pushing every flank is admirable. It's something I still really need to work on. But he keeps going. I call in another airco, this time in a helicopter, to bring in a couple of anti-air options quickly. And in the meanwhile, on the right-hand flank, we have the T-55 trio, which is able to get rid of some Greyhounds, and again, more Mechanichovana. Yickety have arrived. They are, however, stuck in the mud, so unfortunately at the moment they don't quite get their fire support with them. But at the moment they don't really need to. Because it's the triple stack of T-55s, which is able to keep everybody at bay. Proletary, transport, Mechanichovana. We don't discriminate. Everything gets killed off. Still trying to get the sissy team and the HGM to move forward. I'm going to control that road over there so I can bring in more forces. But over here, I'm not doing that well. There is still the Mi-35. There's still another vehicle coming in. The Salamandra is completely out of ammo for everything. And so is my fob. My fob is depleted. Which I think in a ranked battle is a first for me. I don't think I've ever had a depleted fob. But it just goes to show how much I've been required to resupply my troops. Because it just keeps coming. This human wave tactic, it just keeps going. Somewhat successfully so, because... initially he was winning, and if he puts his CV into my 2-pointer, he'll be winning again. But at this point, I'm wondering if I am actually going to be capable of outgrinding his infantry. Of course, the answer against the mechanized deck is generally no. Now, the T-55s get a quick break. The sissy team is engaging as the Losnichi team. This is the Losnichi team. I'm bringing in more infantry, the KTs are dropping off their infantry there, and I decide to just get another CV in. There's one more HGM team in there, and it seemed that the flow of units into this sector has stopped. Finally, because there was just a ton of shit in there. The Sava is still alive, so considering that the area here is mostly empty, well, except for HGM planes, time to dash forward and see if I can find the command unit. Because if it's not inside the town that I just captured, it is probably inside that tree line. There it is, finally. In the meanwhile, I was hearing some sort of units taking fire, but I wasn't quite sure what they were. It turns out that a triple stack of Terra Musti that I called in were taking a lot of fire. You can see them on the edge of the screen. They're taking fire from something. I still haven't quite figured out what though. But I finally recognized, oh shit, there's something in there. But finally, I'm at a +2. And Shark says GG. And I get a win. But good lord, that was a grind and a half. I mean, just look at the amount of kills there. And I was wondering, okay, was his deck empty? So I'm asking in chat, is it a mechanized deck? He says, yeah, it's a mechanized deck. But I was wondering, okay, a mechanized deck has a ton of infantry. Were you empty? And he goes, no. No, I still had about half left. Okay. So there was another half deck of infantry that he could still pour my way. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the battle. This is, let's say, the first video where I'm trying to get, or where I'm misplaying the motorized deck, because I'm not playing wide, I'm playing narrow. By that, I mean that I'm trying to grind against another sector, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You're going to see me do that again in a couple of videos from now. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what your thoughts are. Link down below in the description for the deck code, and I shall see you guys soon for more videos.